Hey everyone, welcome to the Hey Hannah podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Mya Fields, but to my friends and those who know me well, I'm just Mya. I'm a higher education administrator, a mother, and a wife of 14 amazing years. But above all, I'm a Christ follower. This podcast is a special platform created to honor the memory of my beloved daughter, Hannah. It's here that I have the chance to have the conversations that I never got to have with her, to share the wisdom and love I wish I could have passed on. It's a reminder to cherish the precious moments we're given and a testament to the power of healing, hope, and personal growth. If you're someone who's seeking personal growth, inspiration, and practical advice to build a solid foundation for a successful and fulfilling life, this is a place for you. Join me as we honor Hannah's memory together. Laugh, cry, and learn. Get ready for a podcast that is so much more than you could ever imagine. The Hey Hannah podcast, healing hearts, one conversation at a time. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Hey Hannah podcast. I'm so excited for you to be joining us again today. And you're in for a special treat because Linda Rondo is here with us today. She is full of wisdom from the many walks of life that she has been in. And I am just thrilled that she took the time to join us. So Linda, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, in your background, you've worn a ton of different hats. You have a lot of experience in social work. You've also written several books. So, you're just carrying around bags of wisdom. Your most recent book, Life is a Great Teacher. Can you tell us a little bit about how you came about writing that text and just kind of what would you get if you picked the book up today?
The title is Lessons Along the Way. And basically, I got inspired to do this because I had a newspaper column in northern New York, the only non clergy person to have a column in the religious page. And I did that for 10 to 15 years until the newspaper decided they weren't doing the religious page any longer. And I had all these articles that I had written for the paper. So I talked to my publisher and I said, how about combining these and adapting them into a daily devotional book? And she went with the idea. So this first volume, I don't know if there will be a second or a third. It depends on how many sales I get, people. I'll push that, please buy my book. But anyway, it's on sale right now for $9.99 during the Christmas season. But essentially, I put that together with a little quote to start the brain thinking, and a little scripture reading, the anecdote article, whatever, and then a prayer for the day. And within 5 minutes, you've had your morning devotion because we're busy people. And God can speak to us whether we spend 5 minutes with him or an hour. So
Absolutely. I
he will
love
take whatever he can get from us.
that is so true. And I feel like we're all so busy these days and we have these, electronic devices, we have the calendars and everything to help us move through more smoothly, but then we're just even more busy because we throw more stuff on the calendar. So 5 minutes is something we all can grab and have the prayer to end it off and get your day started. It's definitely helpful as well. What would you say would be the top 3 lessons along the way that either you have in the book or you just feel like, these are important lessons for everyone to grab onto?
I think adversity was a main feature of the book. I have it right here, if you don't mind my showing the cover. Okay,
Thank
there
you.
you go. Adversity I use a lot as themed because it just seems like life just throws so much at us. And the devil works overtime to keep us focused on ourselves and not on others. Um, and there's various themes in there. Relationships, um, again, parenting stories from when my kids were little. What did I learn? I have one that's called teenage Robin Hood. And when my son decided he was going to use his allowance money his lunch money that we gave him for lunches to sponsor a child. And in his own thinking, he was doing something good because he was going without his lunch. But as soon as he got home from school, he would devour 4 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. So he really wasn't going hungry. He was delaying his, and trying to explain this to him that we gave him money for a specific purpose. If he wanted to sponsor a child, we'd give him some extra work to do to earn the money to sponsor the child. Because it wasn't his money, it was our money. And he did it without our permission. I got suspicious when he was eating so much after school, so we cornered him and got him to confess. But there's those fine lines of right and wrong that we try to teach our children. And so I've got a few of those lessons that I have. I have one I think very near and dear to my heart is when our son now, who is 53, but when he was younger, he adopted this child. And it took a while for the courts to go through. And then finally, his first name was Joshua.
Mhm.
And then the judge asked him what his new name would be when the adoption went through. And he squared his shoulders and said, Joshua John Behringer. Gonna cry, just like my daddy. Okay. And I think that is true of us. We want to be like our daddy, God the Father, our Abba Father. So there's those various things that are in there.
I love those lessons. I love the story about your son and the way you handled it with explaining to him, like, hey, this is, you want to sponsor the child, but you're not necessarily doing it. I think a lot of times, not just little kids, like we all need a shift in perspective. We may go out with the best of intentions, but sometimes our perspective can be a little bit swayed. So I loved how you took the time aside to help just kind of reorient him a little bit to let him know, like, you had a good thing there. You started in the right place. So let me show you this. So yeah, I think we all can use that sometime.
Oh yeah, these lines that are very very difficult for children, especially teenagers, to learn. And you don't want them to feel bad about themselves.
Yeah,
The fine line becomes how do you preserve their self esteem, but yet teach them why this wasn't the best course of action.
that
Kind of
is so
like
true.
Abraham when he decided to take matters in his own hands and took his wife's slave girl to father a child. He was going to do it the world's way, which is perfectly acceptable thing in the world to do. Very logical, but it wasn't God's way.
Yeah, absolutely. We think we have it figured out sometimes and we try to jump ahead. Jump ahead of God. Um, you mentioned your son who's in his 50s now, and I know you have a lot of experience with parenting
Your
adult.
screen froze up on me, dear.
Oh, did it?
Yes,
Okay. Can you still hear me?
I can hear you. Yes.
Okay, perfect. We're still recording, so it should be okay as long as you can hear me coming through.
Mhm.
You mentioned your son who's in his 50s, so you've had quite a bit of experience with parenting. I just like to talk to you a little bit about parenting your children as they get a bit older, because that looks a little bit different. What are some of the common challenges, in your opinion, that arise when parenting adult children, and how do those dynamics differ from parenting them when they're younger?
I think, and I think letting them have their independence. One of the things I told my son is, I do not want to be a burden to you. And so he needs to live his own life and and I have to bite my tongue a lot of some of the decisions our children make, but they always know that I'm there. And not to give advice unless that advice is asked for.
Yeah.
And that's tough. That is really tough, especially if you're living close to your children.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if they're on the other side of the country, you're not seeing their faux pas every day. With us, we lived in Florida for a while, but we were missing the grandchildren, so we decided to move a little closer.
Mm-hmm.
We're about an hour from my son and an hour and 10 minutes from our daughter, and then 6 hours from our youngest son in Syracuse. And so, we're seeing them more often, and we're seeing some of the struggles they have a little bit more deeply.
Yeah.
And we feel their pain a little bit more deeply, even if they don't share it with us or verbalize it. Your child, and the facial expressions they have when pain is hitting them. And sometimes it's a matter of just letting them know you are praying for them.
Yeah.
And I know that our youngest son has been struggling with jobs. For some reason, he's had a string of job failures, and that has impacted his self-esteem. And he's just, he chose to be a stay-at-home dad, and now that the youngest child is ready, is more independent. She'll be 12 in a
Mm-hmm.
few weeks. So he's feeling like he needs to do something more than just be, stay-at-home dad that, lives off his wife's income. He'd really like to be a contributing member of the
Yeah.
household a little bit more. And he's just had some very bad luck with jobs.
Yeah.
Some of it his fault, some of it not. And I just tell him, Jim, I'm praying for you. I believe in my heart the right job is just around the corner for you. Just don't give up. And he goes, yeah, I know you pray for me every day, Mom, but just pray specifically for that job, would you? We
Make it
were in the
clear.
mall and I saw Santa Claus and I took his hand, and of course I know he's an actor, but it just say, hey Santa, my son needs a job. I told him I'd pray for him. Would you pray for my son to get a job? And Santa squeezed my hand and he said, yeah, I'll pray for your son.
I love it. I love
Yeah,
it.
no, it is a different world, and it's very, very easy. I mean, I could have told my son all the things he was doing wrong and why he couldn't get a job. He needs to do this or whatever. But sometimes our adult children, just need to find their own way, and we need to support them in prayer. I had wanted to get my son an outfit for job interviews for Christmas, but I wasn't having any luck getting the right sizes or whatever. So we're going to give him money to go buy himself a shirt and a tie and a pair of pants for a job interview. And to me, that is a tangible support,
Yeah.
saying we have confidence in you that you will get a job. So you're going to get a good interview, and here's some nice clothes to go to that interview with.
That's amazing. You're absolutely right. It is that support that's not coming, directly from you telling him what to do, but you're still pouring into what he's hoping to achieve. And and obviously different. My sons are 5 and 6, so it's a little bit different. But I do already feel like the struggle sometimes as a parent of younger children with wanting to step in. But I know the importance of them learning to, as you said, figure their own way out, or being able to recover from failure, or pivot when something isn't going the right way. How do you restrain yourself from stepping in as a parent when you just want to help them get it right, but they still need to learn, how to eventually figure their way out?
I think it's the same as when they come home from school with artwork and you put it on the refrigerator. you know, I They're proud of it, and,
Yeah.
and it's not a Rembrandt, but it's something they created with their hands. And so those little things that you do like that to give them self-confidence that you're proud of what they do. Now, with the 5-year-old, I don't know if he's getting his dressing right or not.
Not
Sometimes
yet. A
not
lot of
yet. Okay.
backwards clothes.
Yeah. Sometimes it helps. I know with my son, he was 8 and 9 before he could figure out left and right. So to keep his independence and not put his shoes on for him, we took the bottom of his shoes and put L and right on them, L and R, so that he could, figure it out. And eventually he got it straight. But
That's
at 8 or 9,
smart.
that's kind of, lapsing a bit.
He was getting there.
Oh, he still has struggles. Thank goodness for light signals. If he had to put his hand out for, like they did in the old days, for turn signals, he'd be
Oh,
in
that's
trouble.
hilarious. Well,
But no, I think those are ways you find little things to help them, but not do it for them.
yeah,
Yeah, and
absolutely.
getting his clothes on straight. Sometimes maybe just reinforcing the tag goes in the back, and then helping him to maybe lay out his clothes the right way, so that maybe just turn them the other way around so that the tag is up, and then he can go in and he'll put it right on and his hands will be there.
There you go.
Yeah.
I like it.
And sometimes bring the kid in on solution. They may have solutions you never thought about. What would help you? You got an idea for me? What's going to help you?
That's so true. That's smart. And then you get them to buy into it. And now it's their idea as well.
Oh, yeah. 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 I have one of my lessons in there is dealing with passive resistant child. My youngest boy, the one that couldn't tell right and left. Okay. He was, he was as resistant as the day is long. I mean, it had to be his way and not my way at all. I mean, if I suggested something, forget it. And he was just terribly, terribly stubborn that way. And but when he joined the army, I thought, this is, oh my goodness, not this this anti-authoritarian kid is
Mm-hmm.
going to be in the army. And oh Lord, help us. No,
Did it go well?
because he did extremely well. He did have one incident where he lost it and put a hole in the wall, and he ended up not being able to get his advanced thing. But I had to laugh. He had trouble in college. We got arrested for disorderly conduct or whatever. But you see, my children were not angels, but they made it through. They made it through, and I'm very proud of them as adults. I really am. They're very, very good. But getting back to his passive resistance, I mean, he did. He ended up going to Bosnia, and he got a medal because he was adamant that no soldier that had to. Because here's another little laugh with our Army intelligence. He couldn't get communications because of his misdemeanor that he had,
Mm-hmm.
but they gave him in charge of weapons. So go figure. But anyway, his desire was to make sure every weapon that went to Bosnia was as efficient and clean and ready to go, because he didn't want any soldier to get wounded because of an inoperable weapon.
Yeah.
So, and they gave him a medal for going above and beyond his call of duty. So it's in them, and I think, God uses that obstinance when they get older. They used that obstinance for something good, and that was the case with Jim. So, patience, moms.
That's
That's
what
my other book, by the way. As I prayed for patience, God gave me children.
I need to pick these books up for sure. But I love the lessons that you're just even chatting with us about today, because I think even when you mentioned like your strong-willed child, it takes a certain amount of patience and wisdom to be able to speak life into them and not end up being like a critical voice for them, because you can see them hitting the wall, but you want them to still maintain that confidence and still be able to, once they find their thing, confidently go in that way. But you as a parent, want to make sure that you're watching your tongue as well, so that you can, remain positive in your speech toward them. So I do thank you
One
for
of the
sharing.
things I talked to Jim about during this job crisis thing is I reminded him that his goal, the most important thing to him, was his family. He married late in his 30s.
Hmm.
So, to him, that's the only thing he ever wanted out of life was a family. And so he has invested every ounce of strength and energy and compassion and love into his family. And I said, that has been your number one priority, and you've done it so well, Jim. So I think sometimes when our kid feels like they're failing, we need to help them remember their good traits and their good qualities, and let them focus on some of their positivity rather than the negative and the weaknesses in their lives.
Absolutely. What a blessing Jim has in you to be able to
I don't know if he'd
encourage
say
them.
that, but
Yeah, he's
we
a
have a good relationship. Yeah.
Obviously you are a woman of faith, and so I'm curious to know, as adults, children may have just different values and beliefs at different points in their life. How can parents navigate and respect those differences while still maintaining a strong connection with their adult children?
Oh, that's a loaded question. It's very hard. We tend to want to preach to our prodigals, and I think we need to step back and let God do His work. Now, get my left and right deficient child decided in his later early 20s there was no God. Okay. Um, and, because he said, well, if there was a God, there wouldn't be any evil in the world. There wouldn't be any war. There wouldn't be this. And how could God send somebody to hell if he's a loving God? I mean, he had all the arguments that there was. And rather than argue with him, I just said, well, Jim, someday God will make himself real to you, and then you will know. And then when his daughter was born, he did have a spiritual awakening. Not as far as I'd like to see him go,
Yeah.
but he said, he said, the important to me, I prayed for a healthy child and I got one. So he did pray, and God answered that prayer. So that was the turning point. It wasn't over in Bosnia, somebody shooting him and, the desperation of life. It was the miracle of life that brought him around to realizing that God does care about him. And now he does ask me, and he does do a prayer with his child, trying to teach his child to pray. She's not in Sunday school or church on a regular basis, and I'd like to see them get a church family and get that foundation. But they're making progress,
Yeah.
and his wife is a believer. So, but she's kind of nominal in that. I mean, she's more career focused right now in her career and everything. So they don't really go to a church, but they do try to make sure that Izzy had gone to vacation Bible school, and so they do want her to grow up with the knowledge of God. They don't have the heart knowledge themselves to pass on to her, but at least they're not in the atheist program.
You're seeing some
So yeah,
progress.
I think just it really is ineffective to argue with your children or try to tell them something's there that they aren't ready to believe in. But I do think your life needs to be the example. You know, um, Live more and preach less.
That's a good one. Live more and preach less. How to write that one down. Oh,
You'll
so
remember when the time's right.
there we go. I appreciate your faith in me. Um, so I am also curious. Life is full of a ton of transitions. How can parents adapt to just the changing roles and dynamics as their children enter different life changes, such as marriage, divorce, parenthood? How do you as a parent still, adapt to those dynamics, remain supportive, and, still in your parent role because your child still needs you?
I think when your children run into marital conflict, it's helpful to remember they're not angels. They're not the perfect little baby you held in your arm. They have faults and they have peculiarities that can cause problems for the person they married. So I think again, not to be judgmental. And I had a very difficult time when my daughter-in-law threw my son out of the house, and he was living in a little room. It was just horrible because I mean his living conditions, and he wasn't having an affair. And in my thinking, they should have been able to work through this,
Yeah.
and they own two houses, and he's living in a little room. It's like it was very very difficult because that protectiveness
Yeah.
surfaced like mega megaton, and it's like you hurt my son, and it's like nobody hurts my son, and I just that the barracuda just came right out. It was very difficult, and I really had to pray this through. Um, and Finally, my husband had to be the go-between. I didn't get angry with my daughter-in-law, but I just angry at the situation
Yeah.
that this wasn't right, and a little bit angry at her for not being willing to work it through. And then after they finally got divorced, I just, I had an event where I asked her to come and help me to sign books and so forth. So we were able to keep that relationship up. There are children, they have five adopted boys, and we want to maintain the relationship with him. And to say she's not part of the family anymore because she divorced my son, then that's putting a strain on the children and pitting my son against his wife, and So I said, well, John is doing all he can to maintain a good relationship with those children. So to help him to do that, I need to maintain a good relationship with his ex-wife. And I remember telling her that you can divorce my son, but you cannot divorce your mother-in-law. And I think I had a little bit of help with that from my own personal experience. And that, this is my second marriage. You've
Mhm.
been almost 46 years, so I did it right the second time. But the, you know, to my first mother-in-law, and because of our children, and that she was their grandmother, I worked very hard to maintain that relationship with her.
Yeah.
So I had that sort of experience to help me with this one, you know. And Melissa and I have a great relationship. I told her the other day we had a family Zoom and she popped on, and I told her, I said, guess what? Yours was the first Christmas present I bought. So
Oh,
I just saw something, I knew she'd like it, so I got it for her. So yeah, it's tough. It really is tough, and I think God will help you through that
yeah.
if you give it to Him and help him to take away the anger, take away the bitterness. I think you need to acknowledge the fact that you feel bitter. That's very important. Just denying the feeling is not helpful. You need to accept the fact that that feeling and that emotion is there, and then let God help you deal with it.
Absolutely. And it sounds like you chose the mindset of I need to make sure this is a healthy relationship for the benefit of the people I love around me. And I think that's important for anyone to face first. Like, decide that I'm going to do what it takes to make this relationship work. So it's not hard for, your son or your grandchildren. So I think that's very important to mention for sure.
And then the reality is sometimes the act of the in-law, like for abuse, physical abuse, or criminal behavior, or things like that, there you do have to set some boundaries there.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you still need to forgive, and that will always be hard. And I think the reason God demands that we forgive is for our benefit. Because to hold on to a grudge just wears us down and wears us down, and we can't focus, we can't think, we can't go on with life. But when we can give it to Him and ask for Him to help us to forgive, life's a lot better. No, it's for our benefit that we learn to forgive.
That's so true. It really is. As your kids get older, they no longer, I know you said like your son was in the house when he had he was sponsoring a child, so you knew kind of what was going on. But as kids get older, they're grown and gone. And how can parents really create an environment where their adult children feel comfortable with sharing their thoughts and their concerns and still bringing to their parents what's bothering them and kind of what's going on in their everyday life?
That might be a little bit Pollyanna because I don't think a lot of children will.
Oh.
I know my son is still very private about his life, and he's the oldest boy, and he's not kind of. And I try not to pry,
Yeah.
but I figure I just let him know, you have a problem, we're here. How can we help? We're here, rather than play 21 questions with him to get down to the bottom of what's going on with his life. Um, my daughter's very quick to share,
Yeah.
and it might be the mother-daughter thing. I don't know. And my youngest son will share quite a bit, but my oldest son he has that need for his privacy. And so every once in a while, I'll tell him how things going with job, how are things going with church. Kind of like when you're trying to get your kid to talk about school at the dinner table. It's like,
Fine. That's what you always get.
how's
It's
everything at school? Fine. It's not.
absolutely. That's true. Um, well, I do appreciate, you sharing about the different perspectives. And even though it makes my heart sad to know that my boys one day won't tell me every single detail about what's going on with them, it does set the tone. And it doesn't mean that the relationship isn't healthy because you don't know every single thing. It's just sometimes life dynamics shift, and that's how it is.
It depends on the kid, and I think you need to respect the boundaries that they put up, on you. So, but be aware, be looking, and be sensible, and always pray.
Definitely need to do that all the time. All the time. I'll wrap it up with this. I'm just curious if you could give us some strategies or suggestions for parents just to cultivate positive and mutually fulfilling relationships with their adult children, just to help kind of foster that sense of closeness and connection.
I think number one, being honest. Honesty is very important. Even the older your children get, the more you need to be honest with them.
Mhm.
I think two, not to cover up your own needs. I mean, I shared with you earlier that I fear being a burden to my children, but I think they need to know, if I'm going to a doctor, and not to wait till I get the big C diagnosis or something, so they're not shocked out of it, but just to share, not to worry, not to worry them, but to keep them informed as to what's going on in your life,
Yeah.
especially if there's a long distance, between you and your adult child. They're not there every day. So to keep informed. we've started a family Zoom, um, and we don't know yet how that's going to work. We're going to have another one in 2 weeks. We're doing it the second and last Sunday nights, and mailed it to the grandchildren. Whatever, whoever turns up, turns up. It just to keep those connections open, and then they can share what they feel they want to share without feeling like we're prying or you know getting too nosy.
Yeah.
um, and be interested in them. Try to go to their activities or things like that, and be involved with the grandchildren. I always try to ask my adult children what their children need rather than barge in on something that they were planning to do, and those kinds of things. So being respectful of their rights as a parent to their children is another way to keep that relationship strong.
I was just gonna say, I love how you're very respectful of, your children's parenting in their life and not just barging in. You mentioned a few times like not wanting to pry or to barge in, and I'm sure that could be difficult because you are absolutely full of wisdom. I'm just sitting here listening and taking notes. Like, I wish I could ask her all these questions about my life. And I'm sure it's hard for you not to feel like, oh, let me just tell you this. But you're very respectful of their boundaries, which is a blessing, and I'm sure they appreciate that as well.
Well, I think you learn very quickly when your own children have children, you did it all wrong as a parent. So, we had playpens, and we didn't worry about them. We had strollers, and they didn't have to have the warning label in them. Take baby out of the stroller before you fold it. We had a lot of common sense when our children were younger. We didn't have seat belts in cars. So I mean, parenting methods change, but I think the heart to heart daily thing about parenting remains the same from century to century. Oh.
Absolutely. I love that family Zoom idea. I think I'm going to run with that. I'm the oldest of seven, and so it's a lot of us. We are up to 12 grandchildren, and the baby hasn't even had any children. So we don't know where this number is going to stop, but we're all kind of spread out. So it's nice I like that Zoom idea. We can still remain connected with each other and just have the space open. Whoever wants to come and share, come share. But it's there so we can still kind of, as the family grows and we're still all kind of doing our own thing,
Absolutely.
remain
Yeah, the
connected.
grandchildren are getting old now and older, and we have our oldest grandson has a significant other that he lives with. Again, I keep my mouth shut. That's his choice in life. She's a wonderful, beautiful girl. So, but those kinds of things, it's I've got another few that are in college, and so keeping that Zoom is a way to keeping the cousins in contact too, as well.
Absolutely. I'm doing that. I'm definitely doing that. So, Linda, lessons along the way. Where can we find the book? How can we connect with you? Anyone who's listening who wants to follow you and hear more of your wonderful wisdom like you're sharing today.
Again, this is the book, Lessons Along the Way. I don't know if you can see it with the way the webcam is, but
I can.
um, it's on Amazon. All my books are on Amazon. You just look up Linda Wood Rondo. I should have put my wood in there, but I write under Linda Wood Rondo. All my books are on Amazon. They're all available on Kindle Unlimited and Kindle and print version. The print version for Lessons Along the Way is on sale at $9.99 through to December 29th. It makes a great Christmas present for someone. I think other people, since we were talking about parenting, might enjoy my book. I Pray for Patience. God Gave Me Children. And it's kind of developed the same kind of way in that it has a scripture reading and has questions if they decide to do it as a group. Some churches have done a group study on that. But the book is more about how having children, working with children, teaches us what it means to be God's child.
I love that. I
Yeah.
absolutely love it. I can't wait to get the book and read the book. And I'm sure I'm going to highlight and make some notes. I'm just curious, how many books have you written?
14 that I published, yes.
Wow.
They're all with L. Blake Publishing right now.
That
I
is
have a
amazing.
children's sci-fi that I'm hoping publisher will pick up, and that it's ready to go, ready to be published. If they say no, I'll just self-publish it. But it's about a cosmic librarian. So
Okay. Some new concepts coming about.
Mia Blick, gatherer of lore and intergalactic cultural knowledge.
That's amazing. Congratulations to you. And thank you for all the wonderful work that you've done and your contributions to, I'm sure, not only your family, but to your community as well. Um,
If I can say that I am available to speak to small groups.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm enjoy speaking with women about life in general and how to make you raise your second child like it was your first. And being married the second time, I've been 46 years, and how to be happy though married. Those kinds of things. What do you do when Prince Charming says he does and then he doesn't? Um, those kind of. But I'm always happy, and that information is on my website, and it's www.lindarondo.com.
Wonderful. Everyone who's listening, if you don't have a pen, as always, I will include that information in the comments. So you will be able to click below and follow Linda and click directly to her wonderful book, which I will be reading over the holidays because I'm excited to learn some more lessons along the way. Linda, we end every episode with the same question. So I will ask you, what is the best piece of advice you ever received, or one piece of encouragement you would give to someone that you deeply care about?
Best advice: less is more. Less is more, and that's a writing advice that Stephen King promotes in his writing books. But I think it also applies to life. We can find so much more quality in doing things less than trying to strive for quantity.
Yeah. Less is more. Linda is leaving us with less. Everyone, thank you so much for joining in. I appreciate you listening today, and I know that you've definitely learned some new things and been blessed by Linda today. Linda, thank you for being here. Absolutely.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Hannah's Hive, thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, everybody, take care.
Bye.
And that's it. I'm out of here.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Hey Hannah podcast. We hope that you found inspiration, insight, and encouragement in our conversation today. If you enjoyed this episode and want to stay connected with us, be sure to like, subscribe, and review the Hey Hannah podcast. Your feedback helps us reach more people and spread our message of love and wisdom. You can also follow us on social media at Hey Hannah Podcast. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok to stay updated on all the latest episodes, behind-the-scenes exclusives, and engaging content. And for those of you who prefer the visual experience, catch the video versions of our podcast on our YouTube channel. Just search Hey Hannah Podcast and hit that subscribe button to never miss an episode. For even more Hey Hannah goodness, visit our website at www.heyhannahpodcast.com. There you'll find updates, bonus content, and join a community that embraces you with open arms. Your continued support truly means the world to us. Together, let's spread love, share wisdom, and honor every precious moment. Because here at Hey Hannah, we believe that life is meant to be lived well. Remember, a new episode of the Hey Hannah podcast is released every Wednesday, so mark your calendars and be sure to tune in. Thank you again for being a part of Hannah's Hive. Until next time, take care.
Entertainment. Entertainment.